You're gonna Hello, good evening, and welcome to this month's Mackmyra Masterclass. We're here today live from Ginsecco in the fantastic city of Nottingham. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us from Ginsecco. And ladies and gentlemen at home, again, thank you very much for buying your packs and tuning in to learn a bit more about Mackmyra. Absolutely fantastic to have you all with us. So let's see if we've got any comments so far. Oh, one of our regulars, Tamara. Good evening, Tamara. Yeah, so we got Gregor's as well, Mr. JT 1900, Big Rich, cool. So we've got some nice cool people in that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through our 4 core, which will be in the order of Brooks, Mack, Svensk, Svensk, and then we're going to finish up with the current seasonal, which is this year's autumn-winter seasonal, which is called Stjärnrök, or Star Smoke, but I'll explain a little bit more about that when we come on to that particular dram. So, a quick bit of Mackmyra history before we dive in. Please start to feel free to nose your first glass as well, ladies and gentlemen, in the audience and at home. So the first one up is a Brooks Whisky. Okay, so Brooks Whisky, yeah, is probably the foundation, literally the foundation of Mackmyra. The whole bottle tells the story. So much so that so the story is, back in 1998, 8 friends that went to university together that used to meet up every year brought a bottle of whiskey to dinner with them. And then the composition of a dinner basically got around to, well, why isn't there a Swedish single malt distillery? You know, we've got weather for it, especially the central belt down into the south. So we've got the weather for it, we grow great barley, we've got fantastic water sources, we've even got Swedish yeast, you know, and when it comes to it, you know, we've got Swedish peat as well, and quite a unique way of doing our peating, which we'll touch on later on once we get to that one. So, a year later, on December the 18th, 1999, their dream and their conversation actually became a reality when the very first drops of Mackmyra flowed from a hand-built 100-litre still. It's hand-built by the founders as well, using welding torches, hammers, and all that sort of good stuff. The pattern was actually taken from, I believe, the Stockholm Agricultural Museum. So it was a still that was on display, and they took the pattern from that and produced the Mackmyra, the very first Mackmyra still. So that was the very beginnings of it, really. That laid the foundation. Jump forward 3 years to 2002, and we opened and started operating from Mackmyra, okay, in a very small village called Mackmyra, believe it or not. So a quick introduction. So that's why Brooks Whisky is called Brooks Whisky, yeah, after Mackmyra. So Mackmyra roughly translates, and I mean roughly translates, as midgy bog. So Macks are, I'll hand the bottle around to the ladies and gentlemen in the audience in a momentarily, but anybody at home that's got a full bottle, or you can have a look online, etc., and you'll see little orange insects on the bottle, and they're the Macks, or the annoying insects. And Myra stands for mire or bog, basically. So Mackmyra, well, it sounds lovely to say, and it comes off the tongue quite beautifully as well. It actually just means midgy bog, unfortunately. So all those romantic dreams that sort of start to fade away a little bit, really, once you see the wee orange dots and that on the bottle. But at Mackmyra, that's where we brought our very first stills, our proper commercially built stills, should I say. So we took ownership of a 10,000 litre wash still and an 8,000 litre spirit still from Forsyths. Now, anybody that knows anything about distilling equipment, in fact, even if you've just been on a single distillery tour, will know that probably about 90% of the world's distillation equipment is made by Forsyths. Now, that 90%, that might not be 100% accurate. There might be some poetic license involved there, but they do make the high majority of the world's distillation equipment. So much so, I think you have to, if you're thinking about building your own distillery, I think there's about a 3 to 4 year waiting list. So get your planning permission in now, guys, and get your orders in, if it's something that you want to do. So anyway, that brings us on to our first whiskey at Brooks Whisky. So this is one of our, well, we lovingly refer to it as our breakfast whiskey. It's very approachable, it's very easygoing. It's 41.4%. So in the grand scheme of like whiskey, it is one of the lower end ABVs, but it can only, the minimum it can be is 40% to be a whiskey anyway. Anything above that, I mean, 40% as a whiskey is still fairly good going, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So the majority of this that goes into this is 100 and 200 litre ex-bourbon casks. There is a sherry cask that's been involved as well, and a single 200 litre ex-bourbon cask that's got what we call our smoke tail in it. Now, I'll go through our peating process later, but smoke tail is basically when we wash through our distillation equipment with a fresh, non-peated liquid run, to after we've done a peated run. So it's not peated barley, but the remnants of like peated liquid that's through the system. And we put them into 200 litre ex-bourbon casks, mark them with a big X, and then our master blender, to give her a proper title, our chief nosing officer, Andrea Dorazio, she uses them a little bit like a chef would use salt and pepper, just to bring slight different dimensions to different drams throughout our process. So very, very approachable. Ladies and gentlemen at home, if you'd like to tell me what you're thinking in the comments about Brooks, especially if it's your first time, etc. Excuse the people at home if you're looking at the side of my ear roll, while I just check on some comments, etc. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, what are our first thoughts on Brooks Whisky?
I think it's initially harsh, but then there's a nice glow to it.
Okay.
Throughout the taste.
Yeah, sure. So one of the comments from one of the members of the audience is initially harsh, should I say. You've not had that much whiskey to drink yet. Initially harsh, and then there's a nice warming glow that's coming through it. Yeah, Brooks, very easy approachable. So I don't want to cast aspersions upon a person, but would this be your very first whiskey of today?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's understandable. So when we're drinking whiskey, etc., the very first whiskey, because of that high ABV, that people go, oh, it's only 41.4, that's not really high. Seasoned whiskey drinkers will think that. More people that are just getting into whiskey or new to whiskey, etc. 40% ABV for a drink that you're drinking without water, etc. initially on the first taste, it's going to have that big impact. You know, I've been drinking for whiskey for a couple of years now. I do it as a job. Don't drink whiskey as a job. I present whiskey as a job, obviously. Drink whiskey as a hobby, etc. Better get that bit in before I get arrested or something. But no, so that very first sip you get, yeah, is always going to be that little bit harsher because, you know, even if you've had a beer beforehand, you know, 4.5%, 5%, 6% on some of the stronger beers or whatever, yeah, it's still nothing compared to a 40% spirit that's going to really hit you. So the best way to approach that is get your nose in. We're using quite wide brim glasses today, so that's quite easy enough. Don't stick your nose in too far. Because of the wide brim of the glass, the vapors will go into your eyes a little bit. So people that wear glasses at home and in the audience, you're fairly safe on that one. As people that don't wear glasses, maybe probably should start wearing glasses, especially if you drink too much whiskey from wide brim glasses, that you know, the fumes can get to you a little bit. But no. Again, Brooks whiskey is always a winner on the palate. Now, does anybody at home or anybody in the audience get that very slight bit of smokiness? Now, hold my hands up. I don't get it. I've been through this whiskey on loads and loads of tastings, as you can attest to through YouTube and on our Facebook, etc. But I don't get that hint of smoke in there, personally. Do you get that? So yeah, awesome, more power to you. Just means you've got probably a bit more of a higher sensitive palate as well, which is definitely a good thing when you drink whiskey. You can pick up some of those nuances. And myself, no, I just go, oh, I like that. That's nice. I'll drink a bit more. I maybe drink a little bit less of that one. So, so no, but so ladies and gentlemen in the audience, will be a thumbs up or a thumbs down for Brooks whiskey so far. Fantastic. Brilliant. Sorry, excuse me. Non-COVID related cough. So we've got some very drinkable, subtle spice, very warming. Beautiful, thank you very much. Fresh and nicely balanced toffee, vanilla, cornflakes, like it. Boiled apple and peaches aromats, in your opinion? No, love that. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, Lisa's back as well. Really like Brooks, especially as a new whiskey drinker. Working my way through the range now. Beautiful, Lisa. Welcome back as well. Yeah, we've got something from Sebastian. Peaches and a little bit of glue at the end, but no smoke. Interesting on the glue one. That has come up a couple of times. Obviously, we don't add glue to the whiskey or anything like that. So maybe that's something to do with the way your palate interprets some of the flavour profiles that come through with the whiskey. But that's an interesting one. I like that. Did initially, but having tried even smoky ones, now say less so. Oh, right, okay, cool. So yeah, so probably the more sensitive palate. So she's obviously talking about the picking up of the smoke. Now she's expanded her palate a little bit with trying more smokier whiskies. Going back to a Brooks whiskey with that very, very faint lie of smoke through it, you don't pick it up as much now. Yeah, that's completely understandable. Your palate does, that's probably maybe what my problem is. And I was more into some of the heavier, smokier stuff before I come across a Brooks. So maybe that's why I don't get it. Just a lovely smell. A bit floral and honey notes, a bit underwhelming on the taste though, but still very smooth. Okay, so yeah, I think what Rook means there by underwhelming on the taste is it is quite light on the palate. Yeah, it is 41.4%. That does travel across into the flavour, but yeah, one of the things I really do enjoy with my Brooks whiskey is serving it actually from the freezer. Yeah, because it's quite a light flavour profile anyway, yeah, you will lose a little bit on the nose on the flavour profile initially, but as it starts to warm through on your palate, as you sip it, and in the glass as it starts to warm up, as you're having it from the freezer, yeah, but what you do on your first couple of sips, yeah, is that mouthfeel, that viscosity, that thickness of the liquid that goes over your palate and coats your mouth. It is beautiful. So really great feeling. So take off like a 50 ml sample, not 50 cl, that's like, you know, a whole bottle of Svensk Look. Do you know what I mean? A 50 ml sample or a 5 cl sample, yeah, put that into the freezer, give that a couple of hours, and then try that as maybe one of your first whiskies of the evening if you're planning on having a few drams of a night time or an afternoon or, you know, whatever tickles your fancy. You know, I'm not one here to judge. Beautiful. So most comments are very, very positive. Brooks is always a very, very good way to start life, quite frankly. Moving on from Brooks, next up is Mack by Mackmyra. So Mack is 40%. Excuse me a second while I'll take you around the room a little bit. Well, I have to pour some drams as well, so I'm bar personing while I'm presenting this evening as well. So Mack is really quite good and interesting because it takes us to our next step in our journey of the Mackmyra story in whiskey. So in 2011, we opened and started operating from the Gravity Distillery in Gävle, which is approximately 12 miles north, slightly east. 12 miles. Gävle is 20 miles west of 12 miles west of Mackmyra village. So I couldn't talk and pour at the same time there. I'm not as skilled as a proper bar person, unfortunately. So that's where we built the Gravity Distillery. So Gävle and Mackmyra, approximately about an hour and a half north, slightly east drive from Stockholm. So that's where I was getting the hour and a half bit, and then the north and the northeast bit from. So Mack, 40%. It is chill filtered. It is color corrected, but it's designed to be that way. It's designed to stand out on the back bar. Yeah, as you guys at home can see from that camera shot, and you guys in the audience can see from that bottle will stand out a million miles on a back bar, such as here at Ginsecco. They've currently run out, because I know they did used to have it, but they've run out at the moment, so we'll make sure that they're sorted with some more. So, with Mack, why does that bring us to the next stage of the story? Well, this was the very first bottling to be 100% made at the brand new Gravity Distillery. Yeah? So when we released Mack and put it into the core range, it was the very first bottling that we released from the Gravity Distillery. Now the Gravity Distillery, 35 meters tall. Yeah? At the very top, it's got the sky bar. And then just underneath that, we take the whiskey production process as is normal, left to right or right to left, depending on your setup, but we do it from top to bottom. Yeah. So the barley comes in. Yeah, the malted barley comes in. We conveyor it to the top, to the next to top floor, because obviously the top floor is the sky bar. So just underneath the sky bar, yeah, we take the malted barley, yeah, where we mill it. So that's crushing it and separating it into the three parts: the flowers, the sugars, and the husks. Yeah. Then we go into mashing, which we start adding the hot waters, etc., and starting to get those sugars out. Fermentation, distillation, and at the very bottom, we put it then into the filling store, where it then goes into casks to then go to one of our various warehouses, of which we have 7 in Sweden, 1 in Germany, and 1 now on a floating barge in Paris, owned by Maison Frand on the River Seine. So if anybody, obviously some people out there are on Facebook, anybody's on Facebook, look at Barge 166, and you'll start to see all the good stuff that's happening with Maison Frand and ourselves on Barge 166. I believe it's approximately about a 20-minute walk from the Eiffel Tower up the River Seine till you get to Barge 166. So have a nice little walk up the river and get to a floating whiskey warehouse. Yeah, it's one of the world's first, as far as I'm aware. So we operate and built the world's very first Gravity Distillery, and now I believe we're part of the collaboration that's operating the first floating whiskey warehouse. There are other spirits on there, but obviously predominantly we've got whiskey with Maison Frand. So yeah, Mack. Apologies, where was I on about? Mack. What are we thinking to Mack? Yeah. Now, personally for me, for a chill filtered whiskey, yeah, it's got a great mouthfeel. Yeah. This is great as a cocktail base. Do you know what I mean? As it was designed to be in collaboration with some bartenders. Yeah. It's designed to be on the bar. That's why it's colored to the color it is. It's designed to stand out, be aesthetically pleasing. Okay. But I don't think that detracts away at all from the mouthfeel and the actual flavour you get from this. So the casks that go into Mack are American oak casks. That's it, not ex-bourbon or anything like that, yeah? For virgin and first fill American oak casks. Do we have any comments on Matt? Okay, so Lisa said she's going to give the put in the freezer a try. I'm pretty confident though, Lisa's heard that suggestion before. She's a regular flyer with us here at the Mackmyra Masterclass. So that's a very nice and smooth nose, sweet strawberry, wildflowers, vanilla and oak. Beautiful, beautiful. Any tasting notes for the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, please?
I'd say it's good, yeah. I call it a bartender's friend.
Oh, a bartender's friend.
It's got a long mouthfeel, and I think it'd be robust across quite a few cocktails, sweet and
Yeah.
sour, long and stirred drinks. The mouthfeel continues for a while, but it doesn't dissipate the flavour. It's kind of a constant, which is really good for stirred down drinks.
Awesome. So, yeah, beautiful. So one of the comments there is, yeah, definitely the bartender's friend. Would definitely lend itself well to I believe bartenders call them like stir down and brown cocktails. Yeah, where it's, you got your mixing glass and it generally is some of the darker spirits that you use, and it is literally that you stir your contents as opposed to a shaker, basically. Yeah, one of my favourites of those is a Black Manhattan. But yeah, when we get into Svensk Ek, I'll talk you through one of my favourite cocktails I do with that, Fiat Stockholm. But that's a whole different situation. So any more flavour profiles and stuff like that from people in the audience?
I got a lot of spice.
A lot of spice on the nose?
Like a rye.
Right, yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah. Awesome, so a bit more like a rye. Yeah. Okay, cool. Interesting. Interesting. Any more comments from the ladies and gentlemen at home? Agree with the nice smooth mouthfeel, can taste the oak, much smoother than the Brook on reflection, okay. And a little bit of cinnamon, peaches, berries and cherries. Yeah, beautiful. This is one of those strong flavours that are coming through, you know, like Charles in the audience said, you know, do lend themselves well to being the base spirit of a cocktail, because it can impart those flavours without losing appreciation for the base spirit in the cocktail itself, which is what a good cocktail should be. It should enhance the base spirit that's being used, not drown it out. Cool. Awesome. I think we're on some good time there. Some good time. So, next up, probably our most well-known flagship single malt that we do, and that's Svensk Ek. So one of the ones that's going to pose probably the biggest, the first one that's going to pose a pronunciation problem. Ladies and gentlemen at home, ladies and gentlemen in the audience as well, me sometimes as well. But this is Svensk Ek. Would anybody at home, apart from the regular flyers, like to hazard a guess at what Svensk Ek means? We'll leave that going for a little while. Anybody in the audience care to hazard a guess at what Svensk Ek means? Okay, so we'll go for a bit of a thought on that one in a moment. Okay, this is 46% non-chill filtered, non-color corrected. Okay, so this is ticking some more of the box that some more whiskey aficionados, as it were, if you want to call it that, are a bit more going for these days. So yeah, so that's not to detract away from Brooks and from Mac for sure, but sometimes when you mention lower ABVs and chill filtration stuff like that, it can put some people off. Okay, but this is non-chill filtered, non-color corrected, and at 46.1%. So, amuse yourselves at home for the moment, please. Will I go and pour some drams? Swedish oak, nice one. So that was Mr. JT 1900 was spot on with the first guess in from that. Svensk Ek means Swedish oak. It does make sense, doesn't it, really? It makes even more sense when we go on to dram number 4. But I won't give the game away too much, because you'll start shouting the answer out right now. And that'll just spoil the whole game, like, you know. Beautiful, beautiful. Jets, if you can just push your glasses forward for me, that would be lovely. Thank you very much.
Very nice measure there if you want.
That's all right, mate. As long as we're getting 25 for the tasting, we're golden.
It's beautiful, sir.
Fantastic, thank you kindly. So, I'm back. I need a wee one myself to remind myself of some flavours. So, Svensk Ek, and I was quite rightly pointed out in the comments, Svensk ek means Swedish oak. So about 5 to 6 years maturation in ex-bourbon casks. Okay, they would take 10% of that batch of liquid and further mature it for 18 months in virgin Swedish oak. Exactly, virgin Swedish oak. Now, the story of Swedish oak is not a new one. A lot of people have heard me say it many times, but I love it. So I'm going to say it again, because I love the story of Swedish oak. So obviously oak is always grown in Sweden, mainly the southern parts. But in 1830, about 10 to 15 years after the Napoleonic Wars, yeah, the Swedish Royal Navy and the Swedish Royal Family were thinking very, very ahead of themselves and very much into the future. So they sent out 10 emissaries, and this is for warship building, by the way, warship production for the future generations. So they sent out 10 emissaries from Stockholm to say, scour Sweden and find us the perfect place to plant a big forest of Swedish oak trees. So 3 of these emissaries come across a croft on Visingsö, which is an island in the middle of Lake Vättern. Lake Vättern is Sweden's 2nd largest lake. Okay, so they happened upon a croft on Visingsö, and outside this croft were 3 magnificent oak trees. Yeah, so they took one of these oak trees down and took it back to Stockholm, where the Royal Navy and the Royal Family went, thumbs up, that's the place. That's where we will now grow our future warship oak trees, okay? So over a 10-year period from 1930, they set about planting 300,000 oak trees, which is approximately, I believe, now I am not a numbers person. If anybody can correct me on this, I'll be more than happy with that situation. Approximately 900 acres. But again, so they were thinking very far into the future with this, yeah? Because in those conditions in Visingsö, it takes about 150 to 160 years for these trees to get to where they need to be. So to help that as well and to make them grow extremely tall and extremely straight, they planted various other species of trees in between the oak trees to make the oak trees fight for the light and to grow tall, yeah? Such as like silver birch, ash, ferns, all that type of stuff. I'm nowhere near an expert on trees, or anything to do with agriculture in all fairness. But yeah, so that's what they did to make these oak trees grow really tall and really straight. So, and the reason they grow really tall and really straight over a slower period, and they're really good for what they're being used for now, is because of the conditions on Visingsö, yeah? So in the summer, it's slightly warmer than it is here in the UK, and in the winter, it's a little bit colder than it is in the UK. And the summer's quite damp as well. So that leaves sort of like a perma mist sort of thing really on the water. So it's a bit cold in that as well. So the tree development is a lot slower than it would be in a warmer climate, on a continuous warmer climate, such as American oak. Okay, so before we dive in, I know some people have already dived in. Before we dive in, yeah, you're going to get a lot of familiar flavor profiles from this because of the majority ex-bourbon cask maturation. Okay, but what you're going to get on the back of the palate is quite a lovely. I think it's lovely. Some people might disagree. I get quite a lovely, like a white pepper spice on the back of the palate. Okay, that's because of the influence of the Swedish oak. Yeah. It's got, because of its growing conditions as well, yeah, it means it's got a lot less wood sugars in it than American oak does, okay? So that's going to give you a bit more sandalwood, a bit more white pepper like I already mentioned, a bit more hazelnut. And one of the most common tasting notes, especially in the back of the palate from this, and our big behind-the-scenes director, tech guy, Carl, picks this up a lot as well, is dark chocolate, yeah? Anybody get dark chocolate on the back of the palate? In fact, this really does go well with a nice like 70, 80% like cocoa chocolate. Really, really well. It's really interesting when I do Svensk ek for people in front of me for the very first time, or even if it's on Zoom but I have to see their faces. Because even though you pre-warn them about that spice in the back of the palate, yeah, you can always tell by the look on their face when they get to it. It's lovely, it's lovely. And you go, and you're going to get that spice, 2, 3, right there it is. It's really quite enjoyable. So let's see what we've got coming in from people at home. Swedish oak, what do we get? Favorite so far, totally get the dark chocolate peppery notes. Brilliant, sorry, excuse me a second. No, yeah, exactly. I'm glad other people are agreeing that as well. So ladies and gentlemen in the audience, what are our opinions so far on Svensk Gek?
Really, really complex. Or not really complex, more complex than
Yep.
obviously the roast.
Yep.
So it's a little bit more rounded.
Which is quite strange, isn't it? Because it's a more simpler cask recipe. Do you know what I mean? Where we've got 3 or 4 different casks at play, or different styles of casks at play with Brooks. Yeah, with Svensk Gek, we've only got 2 cask styles at play, ex-bourbon and Swedish oak. But I think it's those layers of Swedish oak that are giving you that complexity that you say in there, you know. And it's definitely that spiciness, you know. You sit down.
It's really well balanced.
Yes.
It's quite sweet initially, and then you've got that lovely bitterness that comes in at the end.
Yeah. So for ladies and gentlemen at home, one of our audience members here live, I say it's quite well balanced. You know, it's not too much bitterness, it's not too spicy, it's not too sweet. It's got all of those things, but in a good, equal, well thought out proportion. And that's one of the things that Angela D'Orazio is amazing at. I don't think there's a single whiskey we have in our portfolio at the moment that's unbalanced. You know, all of the whiskies that we do have out there are very, very well balanced, very well rounded indeed. Yeah, I really quite enjoyed Svensk Gek. So I did tell you, I would tell you a nice little cheeky cocktail recipe to go for Svensk Gek. So it's my twist on a Black Manhattan. A Black Manhattan is normally 2 parts rye, 1 part Amaro Montenegro, 2 dashes of bitters. Stir down a brown, nice chilled champagne coupe, or a nice like Nick and Nora, something just a nice, as long as it's a nice looking glass and it's chilled. I mean, it can be anything out your cupboard in all fairness if you're doing it at home, guys. It doesn't really matter. You're not trying to impress anybody there, just want a nice tasty drink. So I take out the rye and introduce Svensk Gek. Now, so I call this a Sviet Stockholm, because Sviet is Swedish for black, and Stockholm is in Sweden, Manhattan is not. So, you know, got to keep sort of like on brand, on country, etc. So yeah, so 2 parts Svensk Gek, 1 part Amaro Montenegro, 2 dashes of orange bitters, in a nice mixing glass or a pint tumbler or whatever you can get a hold of. Yeah, nice a bit of ice. Give it a right good stir for about 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah, and then pour that into to your favourite drinking cocktail glass, basically. I like a nice chilled champagne coupe. I do happen to have some, so that's all quite nice for me. But if anybody that doesn't have an extensive amount of glassware, a tumbler will do. Do you know what I mean? And you can finish it off if you really want to with a nice zest of orange peel. So a nice big chunk of orange peel. Give it a good twist to get some of the zest off. Drop that into your drink. Wow. Big chef's kiss. Beautiful. Really quite enjoy that one. Really quite enjoy that one. So, Sebastian, favourite so far? Perfect. Agree. So on the nose, caramel, vanilla, ginger, a filling taste, spicy. Favourite so far as well. Brilliant. A lot of people come out of Mac and Brook because we do jump up quite a bit on the ABV. You know, this does tend to then start being the people's favourite of the first 3 drams that we have on the Masterclass, in all fairness. But please don't let that detract away from Mac and Brooks either. You know, they are very great whiskies within their own right, and they're very well placed for where they should be, whether that be price point, ABV, and reach of audience as well. So yeah, so we've got quite a few good thumbs up. Gingery chocolate aftertaste that goes on and on. So a nice long finish, beautiful, love that. Biggest difference between nose and taste, in my opinion. Oh, okay. So what do you mean by that? So biggest, yeah. So what? Please tell us what you mean by biggest difference between nose and taste. Is it polar opposites, or yeah? Please let us know. That would be great. UK white pepper, young walnuts, a little licorice, dark chocolate, hint of cinnamon. Yeah, beautiful. Very exquisite as always, Tamara. Thank you very much for your input again, pal. It's phenomenal. Tamara, she does a lot of stuff with whiskey and cooking. whether that be savoury stuff, sweet stuff, whatever. She does a lot of mad experiments with whiskey on her own volition and that as well. We must get her on a show one day. I think we'll do a Mackmyra and Tamara sort of like food pairing. So I think that would be pretty cool. That'd be T jumping to my inbox now going, yeah, Mick, let's do it. Brilliant. So that takes us on nicely now to dram number 4. Dram number 4 is called Svensk Rök. So, would anybody like to hazard a guess? While we keep Svensk Rök upon the screen there, the bottle upon the screen, I'll do the pouring for the people, so you don't have to watch my bum and stuff like that and other people's doing their stuff. So, Svensk Rök. Anybody like to hazard a guess?
I think it might be
At Svensk Rök.
Swedish smoke. Oh, yeah, isn't it? Does it smell smoky? Oh, yeah.
How are we enjoying it, gents?
All good, sir. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
I wouldn't have said him first, but as soon as you said it, that's definitely.
Perfect. Right, leave that off. Yeah. So, fantastico. So, Svensk Rök. Would anybody like, would anybody at home like to hazard a guess at what Svensk Rök means? No prizes for guessing Swedish, because we've covered that in Svensk Ek. Okay, so no cheating, just going Swedish something. Okay, we know it's Swedish. So what does Rök mean? What does Rök mean? We've had a guess from a member of our live audience. I'll hold off on that one momentarily. So from the picture, Swedish smoke. So yeah, so a member of our live audience guessed Swedish smoke, yeah, Swedish smoke. Sebastian's got Swedish smoke as well. Swedish smoke, yeah, everybody's guessed it, Swedish smoke. So I take it everybody's had a good smell of this one before they went in, hazarded a guess at what it meant. Or they've been really quite quick on their Google Translate. So, yeah, so Swedish smoke. Now you're going to say to me, so what I like to explain about Mackmyra, okay, is regardless of which one it is, yeah, we're going to give you a slight twist on what you're used to, okay? So it looks like a whiskey, it smells like a whiskey, it tastes like a whiskey. But on the nose and on the palate, something creeps up and goes, boom, I'm that little bit different you're not used to, yeah? In Brooks, it was the smoke tail, yeah? It was the combination of casks that we've used as well. In Mac, it was that mouthfeel that we're giving you from that American oak maturation, yeah? With a 40% whiskey. You know, it's got a bigger mouthfeel than a 40% chill filtered whiskey should give you, yeah? With Svensk, that's something slightly different, was that peppery back of the palate finish, yeah? From the Swedish oak influence. Now, the cask makeup for Svensk Rök, yeah, is American oak, Swedish oak, and ex-bourbon casks that have been saturated with Oloroso. Okay, so there's nothing particularly uniquely different in there. Okay, now, but what is different is our peating process. Okay, that's where we're going to stand out on this particular dram. So our peating process, and it carries over into the last dram as well. So remember that is we're one of only, I think, and don't quote me on the numbers. So read the small print. One of only 12 distilleries in the world that floor malt and smoke our own barley on site. We buy in our non-peated barley, but we buy extra in, yeah, and take sections of that, big portions of that, yeah, and floor malt and smoke it ourselves. Because our maltings, Viking maltings, they don't offer a smoke and peating service, basically. So for us to do that, we've done it ourselves. So right next to our £5 million gravity distillery, we've got a great big, long, dirty shipping container, which is our malt floor and our kiln for our smoking. Now, like I said at the beginning, yeah, All of our ingredients are 100% Swedish, including our peat. So we get our peat from the Karen Mossen, okay, or a bit of a hospitality joke, the bog of Karens, okay, where all Karens should go and die and be useful to the hospitality industry. If your name's actually Karen, you know I'm not talking to you directly, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say, so please don't be offended by that, okay? If you're a named Karen and you're watching this, you know exactly what I'm on about any road. So, what else is different about our peating process, apart from the fact that we do it ourselves, and it's Swedish peat, and it's Swedish barley, Swedish water, everything, okay? So, we take juniper twigs, yeah, and put a layer of juniper twigs on top of our peat fire. So we've got a wooden fire, then we've got a grate. Then we have a layer of peat, yeah, on top of that to get the smoke going. And once the smoke's going a bit, we then put a layer of juniper branches on top of that. That gives a really earthy, resinous smoke. Now, you think, well, how do you keep that up? So we do like 3 smokes a year. We actually smoke as well to 60 ppm, believe it or not. Now, for peat heads out there, that's fairly high. That's bigger than most of your West Coast island of Scotland, home of peated whiskey. Big guns, basically, apart from one that we can all name, but that's just ridiculous anyway. But for the majority, yeah, we beat them on a ppm level. However, we reduce that ppm level in the mash bill. We only use about 23 to 25% peated barley, yeah, to like 77% unpeated barley to do a smoky run. We do that 3 times a year, yeah, and during that, and it takes 3 days to do it, and during that time, the wood for the fire, the peat, and the juniper twigs are replaced every 4 hours. Every 4 hours. So that's quite an intensive let's, but that's what allows us to keep that really big, billows, you know, earthy smoke going at a decent, consistent, to get up to that 60 ppm. And we do I believe it's one extra peated run a year, which is where we just double the amount of smoked barley in the run. And you'll get some of that on the last one. So, what do you think on the nose and on the palate for this one? I mean, Stjärnrök for me is one of our only bottles. It's one of our only bottles, and our only bottle in the core range, which comes in at a 50 cl. But it's appropriately priced for that, and hoping to see a change in that next year. I'm hoping. Not to give the game away too much.
Where's the peat from? Not the one that...
The Karen Mossen.
Yeah, but is that
So it's approximately, no, so it is coastal. Okay. I believe it's from the bed of the, I want to say Black Sea. I need to do some better geography, I'm going to be honest with you. I need to educate myself a little bit better on that one. But I believe it's the Black or the Bering Sea. But it's about 20 miles away from the distillery. And you do get that bit of salinity on the nose, I find. Now, I know, you know, most people that know, I'm not one for giving out many tasting notes and stuff like that as well. So please feel free to chime in and join me with yours. Do we have anything from anybody at home at the moment? Sebastian, now your heart is beating. Lightly warm campfire, bacon, mouthwatering. Yes, I get bacon frazzles. Yeah, so I get a bit of salinity on the nose. Yeah, a bit of bonfire on the nose. On the flavour profile, I get bacon frazzles. I'm sure there are other bacon flavoured crisps available, but it's that particular brand that really ticks the box for me on this one. Beautiful. That morning after, slightly damp, smoky bonfire. You pick it up like your hoodie you've worn the night before when you've been doing the barbecue or something, and you pick that and put that in the wash and you give it a smell first, and yeah, that's one of those right there, like, you know. Anything else from anybody at home? Really smoky, but far more drinkable. Yes, perfect, yes. Favourite one, smoked ham, very peated, a little bit of toffee and vanilla, a little bit of salt and minerals. Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. Love that. Love that. So yeah, a lot of people join this show and they come and they go, oh, Nick, I'm not a big fan of peated whiskey. So I just ask people, like, just give this one a go, okay? After your first sip or two and you don't like it, hey, that's cool. You know, we're not going to please everybody all of the time. And I 100% get that, okay? With as many whiskey distilleries as there are out there, and as many expressions as we do, there's a whiskey for everybody, and there's 100% of Mackmyra for everybody as well. So don't panic about that. If you don't particularly like one of them, it's for a good reason, then that's okay. That is okay. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to cry. Well, not too much anyway. But all that means is just more for me. And I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. But no. So that's what we offer differently in our peating process. We do it ourselves. Yeah. We use locally sourced peat. Yeah. And we only use the top layer of peat as well. It's called the white layer. It's not actually white in colour, but geography and all that sort of stuff says it's the white layer of peat. So again, all these things we do, the gravity distillery, the white layer of peat, our heat capture system throughout the distillery, etc., is that as well, actually resulted in us being awarded. Now, this is a long title, so please give me a minute while I get it all out. The Whiskey Magazine Icons of Whiskey Rest of the World category, most sustainable distillery of the year 2021. Whew. No one needs an oxygen tent. Thank you very much. So that's something we're really, really proud of. So that just goes to show we're being recognised on a global scale for the very forward green efforts that we're putting ourselves to. Yeah, and while we're doing that, we're making some damn tasty drams at the same time. So it's, it's all good. It's all good. So, beautifully, what time are we on? Oh, lovely, great timing. So, Stjärnrök, are we a thumbs up, a thumbs down? Or we got some double thumbs up in the audience? Perfect, some thumbs up, brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen at home, what are we thinking? Any more comments from everybody at home? No, we're all up to date on that one. Perfect. Happy days. Fantastico. So, ladies and gentlemen at home, please do keep your comments coming and pour your dram number 5, which is called Stjärnrök. Okay? Stjärnrök. If we just put up the bottle picture of Stjärnrök, mate, will I actually pour it? That would be lovely. There we go. We got some motion on the go as well. We're going to mention that, and then it went again. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. We'll get onto that in a minute. So, Stjärnrök, or Star Smoke. Before I go on to this, jump back to Stjärnrök and cover that. It was 46.1%. Natural colour, non-chill filtered. Apologies, I forgot to mention that. I knew I was lined up to mention it, and then I got rabbit holed about something else and completely forgot. As is the norm with me. So, Stjärnrök, or Star Smoke, okay? This has been made, right, with a specific scenario in mind, okay? Up in the hills of Sweden, yeah, just as the sun set and the stars have come out, yeah, just in that November nights, those October, November nights that we're just getting into now in the UK, yeah, where it's getting that slight bit of chill on the go, and you're out and you've got a nice nice hill vantage point, yeah, and the stars are out beautifully, yeah, and you go, oh, what's in the hip flask? And you want a nice cheeky little smoky number. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, we've done it for you. No more of that home blending, I put a bit of this and I put a bit of that into my hip flask, which is what I'd like to do for going to the rugby. We've done that for you. So yes, last year, the seasonal was Yaklika, which was Happy Hunting, which found its way into my hip flask for going to the rugby. This is this year's rugby replacement, and just general, I think, like October going forward replacement, quite frankly. Yeah, 46.1%, natural colour, non-chill filtered, okay? So again, ticking those boxes that people enjoy, okay? So, Mick, what goes into those, what casks go into this recipe, okay? So we're looking at 57%, yeah, of ex-bourbon and American oak, and also 30-litre ex-Oloroso casks, yeah, that use our peated and extra peated recipe, yeah. To sort of bring a bit of balance around to that, yeah, we're using some of our more mature ex-bourbon casks with an elegant recipe, and so our non-peated recipe, yeah. So in amongst those, yeah, it's like some from like 2010 and 2008, I believe. So some of our definitely our older stock to bring a bit of maturity, a bit more roundness to the affair. So that takes up, yeah, about, so let's see, about 35, 38%. And then the final 5%, yeah, is made up of whiskey matured, yeah, in cloudberry wine seasoned Swedish oak, just to really tie everything in together. And that last little bit, that last little pop of fruit, as it were. Absolutely fantastic dram. It's been a big favourite since we launched it 5 weeks ago. I think we did the launch show with Angela. Was a great show. Myself and Craig with Angela launched this, and it's flown out the warehouses. So while we're on that, Carl, do you have the banner lined up for the offer? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen at home, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience as well, if you want to buy this online from Mackmyra.com or .co.uk, yeah, if you use the code Stjärnrök40, yeah, you will get yeah. So you buy a bottle of Stjärnrök and you'll get 40% off one of our core range, excluding Brooks Whisky. Okay, now we're excluding Brooks Whisky because we're down to our final bottles of the Blue Label Brooks Whisky, yeah, which we're gonna do a promotion on for Friday. So stay tuned for that one as well on Friday, yeah, before we move over into a nice new easing into of Brooks Whisky Vintage 2008. Okay, and for the people in the audience in Nottingham, yeah, Gauntleys just down the road, about not even a 5-minute walk from here. Yeah, stock us quite significantly. You have Stjärnrök in stock, and he's got some bottles of the rest of the range as well. So people in Nottingham, please get down to Gauntleys and support locally. Anyone outside, obviously support local wherever you can. But to take us up on our deal, yeah, Stjärnrök, Carl's banging the to get the spelling right. It's valid until midnight. Okay, so get your orders in, guys, and you will enjoy this. For me personally, this is a massive highlight for me. I'm a big smoky whiskey fan anyway. The fruits that come along with it as well from the 30-litre Oloroso cask. So if anybody wants to know more about 30-litre ex-Oloroso casks with a smoky recipe in, again, hit up Mackmyra.com, mackmyra.co.uk, yeah, and look at our private casks, or look at our casks you can lay down for the future as well. And there's options there for you to do that as well. Yeah, I mean, just it's a fantastic, well-rounded nose to it. Absolutely beautiful on the palate. Yeah, this wins my evening. So, ladies and gentlemen at home, let's see what we've got. Oh, Bully, good evening, Bully. Bully absolutely loves Stjärnrök, a perfect autumnal dram. His new favourite Mackmyra whiskey, sweet, earthy and moorish. A real shame it's a seasonal and will run out. And that's right. So all of our seasonals, yeah, while we all love them, they do run out. They are very much a limited commodity. We only produce 15 to 20,000 bottles of a particular seasonal, and we don't repeat them. So yeah, so once it's gone, it is gone. And this one has been going very rapidly. So ladies and gentlemen in the audience, what do we think to Stjärnrök? Yeah, so we've got I love it, we've got some thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. So the sweet and the peat really goes well together, doesn't it? You know? Yeah. So this is a great, perfect combination of sweet and peat. Or sweet and smoke. Because it's more of a smoky flavour than a peated flavour per se, which is lovely. So do we have anybody else? So Sebastian's favourite, versatile on the nose, He's got a bacon, sea salt, then comes the sherry, dark fruits, long lasting, very nice. Yeah, skål. Absolutely fantastic, Sebastian. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, stay tuned to our social medias. We've got a couple of things coming up before Christmas. A few little surprises, a few soft releases, as it were. One of them being Brooks Vintage 2008, which is going to start to replace Brooks as you know it. That's starting to hit the streets as we speak. So keep an eye out for that. One of the biggest differences you'll notice is it's gone from a blue label on the bottle to a bright orange label on the bottle. So probably a bit easier to spot as well. I'd like to thank everybody here at the fantastic Ginsecco in Nottingham. Thank you very much to Charles for having us. Fantastic venue. So if you're ever in Nottingham, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you get yourselves over to Ginsecco. He's got some great cocktails and he's got some Mackmyra behind the bar as well. So you know exactly where to come in Nottingham. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen at home, thank you very much for tuning in and joining us. Don't forget Stjärnrök 40 to buy a bottle of Stjärnrök and get 40% off a core range bottling, except the Brooks Whisky. Okay? Except the Brooks Whisky. Look out for a deal to go live with that on Friday. So all that leaves, we'll just have a quick check. We've got a thank you from Lisa. We've got some thank yous coming in. Thank you very much, guys. So spicy, smooth fireplace smoke on the nose. A very, very smooth and sweet mouthfeel and taste of the palate. Very long and pleasant finish. Thank you very much. Absolutely fantastic. So that's all that is to say, ladies and gentlemen, in Nottingham. Ladies and gentlemen, at home, skål and good night.